served with that, that still stands on their record as an official county document and holds merit.
Well, I don't know. I hadn't even thought about it till JP Hire said that about teachers, and I know they have a process, you know, where they can go and appeal. So I was just wondering about it.
Yeah, we haven't considered that and taken that into account in the policy. So no, there's not a method for that right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Justice Lyons?
Thank you. Just to add to Dr. Pache, that's just not county, that's industry. There is no appeal process in industry. In 30 years I've been working in industry, we don't have appeal. Now, you do have the conversation with your supervisor, you have the ability to document your view of it, right? But then, you know, what's there is what's there, and there is appeal, it's just not a government thing, that's just a work thing. I work for somebody, they evaluate how I work, how I do my job, and they provide evaluations for documentation's sake, either for raises or other circumstances that come up.
Thank you, sir. Director Burchett, did you want to make any comments on the plan? Do any of our directors want to make any comments on the plan? I didn't know if you guys were here for this. I'm not putting you on the spot at all. I just want to give you the opportunity.
Surprise, right? Angela, Ledgerwood, Buildings and Grounds. I just want to reiterate what Paul said. For a number of years, comments have been made by people around this group that we need to do something for the people on the bottom. This compensation plan does something for the people on the bottom, and it's good. We had, for the first time, we were going to be fully staffed in janitorial in August. And we had orientation scheduled, and the day before orientation, the guy called and said, I got a job for $1 an hour more. He didn't come. We still haven't filled that position. This compensation plan would have paid him more, and he would be here. So I just implore you to please consider this. It's good for everyone. It's good down the road, as some of you have stated. Please. Puts a lot of consideration into this and plan on passing it.
All right.
I actually will say something.
Okay, Director Burchett.
I think we haven't touched upon recruitment, and I think that that's important for everybody to understand. So one of the big benefits also of this program is that it'll allow our electeds and our hiring officials to be able to negotiate on the front end with their applicants. Up to the third step in whatever that position is classified within. And I think that that is going to be very telling when it comes to our recruitment and retention processes. Right now, Comptroller Sherman did touch upon the fact that in our current graded structure, the mechanism for recruitment and negotiating pay, you have to go through this very cumbersome process of JSAP, and then you go through county services or finance and budget, and then on to quorum court to get that money approved or that increase in pay approved for starting pay. With this program, the money would be there, and the new hire would be able to be negotiated with on the front end, and that hiring official would be able to, in a sense, guarantee, yes, we can give you this, and you're going to get this coming in. Whereas right now, a part of that process is they come in at the minimum, and then we wait to go through the committee process, and then HR is going back once it's approved and figuring retro pay for that individual back to their effective date. So that in itself is also very cumbersome to get that employee the pay that they have essentially been negotiated with at the time they were offered the job, but they didn't start at that pay. They started at a lower pay pending our approval process. So that can be very challenging in itself to even, for us to recruit, but then also for applicants out in the field looking for jobs, like they see that process, they're like, why would I want to go and do that, and have to sit through that when I can go over here to Walmart or JB Hunt or somewhere and know going in, this is what I'm getting paid and I'm going to get that on my first check. So I think that that's a huge benefit as well, and I believe that we will see a huge shift in our ability to recruit and retain valuable employees in the county going forward with this plan. Trying to think if there's anything else that we missed.
You might want to touch on, I'll bring up, Director Burchett, when we first started this process, brought something up to me that I didn't appreciate.
Okay,
We spend a lot of time and labor in HR doing these processes she just described. Getting these ordinances, back pay, all this kind of stuff. This system will make our compensation extremely predictable. What that does is it allows budgeting to be easier for you guys, what we can expect year to year. But then what it does is it opens up Director Burchett's team to start working on other things for the county that might be beneficial for our employees. And if you want to, I'd like for you to comment a little bit on that.
so, you know, one of the goals in my mind from the get-go with this proposal was, let's be proactive about what we're doing in the county instead of being reactive. I have been here for about 3 years now, and I've had the opportunity to watch this horseshoe talk about budget and employee and salaries, and we're gonna put employees first. And unfortunately, because of all of the varying differences in our compensation programs, it's very challenging to get a hold on that during budget season whenever we have many other budget concerns going on at the same time. So one thing is to get proactive. And so the ability to get on a step plan will allow us to do that. And it will enable us to start looking at things like what I call fringe benefits. And when I say fringe benefits, I mean things like tuition reimbursement or assistance for our workforce, child care assistance or reimbursement type programs, things that we've never been able to touch upon before in the past, because we're always ultra focused on how are we gonna pay our employees, what are we gonna pay our employees, and how are we gonna manage these varying compensation programs that we have existing. So me and my team are excited about being able to delve into that side of HR and to be able to build our benefit program for our employees, which in a sense will also help with recruitment and retention in the long run. I've had many employees come to my office and ask me, like, do we do anything with child care assistance or reimbursement? And unfortunately, right now, the answer is no. We try to direct them to, you know, Department of Human Services, because there are some things that, being a public sector employee, you can qualify through that, through state programs. But that is a cumbersome process for them to have to go through and apply. So I would like to see us be able to do that and aid our employees in those areas. I will say that some of our sister counties, what I refer to as Benton and Pulaski, they have programs like that already in place. They're already doing that. So in that sense, we're behind. And I don't want us to be behind. I want us to be viewed as the best county in the state. They should be looking to us at what we're doing. And I will say that as far as this STEP program that is before you, this proposal, Benton County and Pulaski County, they have called me and asked me, and they want to see it. Some cities have asked me, they want to see it, because they are under the old program that our old vendor that was managing compensation in the state, they're still under that old program. We have moved away from that. So we are ahead of the game as far as where we're at preparing our compensation countywide. One of the other things with this proposal that hasn't been talked about is long-term maintenance of it. So we're fitting employees. Employees are classified within their grades right now under what I call the graded structure. We have taken road positions and sheriff positions and market benchmark them and fit them into that graded compensation program that exists right now. And then we overlaid it and turned it into a STEP program. In the future, obviously, market's constantly moving and changing for costs nationwide. So in order to nurture the STEP program, we will have to do, whether it be annual or every 3 years or every year do a third, we are gonna have to do compensation analysis on our positions to keep up with the market. So that will be a mechanism that will come to you all if this passes at budget time. You won't be doing it in February, March, June, July, all these random times like you do now with regrading. You'll do it all at once cohesively for the entire county. We'll be looking at it as one whole picture. It won't be piecemealed. So I think that there's a lot of value in that, and doing market analysis in that way instead of trying to regrade and get these employees up in the structure. I think I've explained this before, that regrades should not be the way that you give raises. It shouldn't be the norm. And usually regrading only occurs if there's a huge structural change in a department. So we should be looking at market. We should be trying to compare to the market. Where we compare to the market, like at what point, that is, you know, a topic of discussion, I guess. But I would recommend trying to be competitive and look at the 75th percentile in market when we're looking at salaries, because we're ahead of where the market is at that point, and we can remain competitive and stay competitive if we're targeting that. If we can afford it, we may have to dial back from time to time. We did touch upon that a little bit, if we get into a hard year. Well, I wouldn't recommend changing the structure of what's being proposed. I would say freeze steps if we got into a hard year. Don't just let employees sit where they're at, or don't do a COLA. There's lots of things that you could do without changing the scope of what's being proposed and before you. Okay.
Justice Leming, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to ask this question because it's been on my mind a lot. If you talk about regrading, would you grade a police officer in Fayetteville, Arkansas better, worse, same as a police officer in Washington County?
Would I grade them?
I mean,
the same?
how would you grade a Washington County sheriff patrolman that goes out on calls versus a city of Fayetteville patrolman that goes out on calls?
So I will start off by saying cities and counties are different.
Well, no,
You
a
can't
police officer, police officer.
Hold on, please, 1 second. You cannot compare a city to a county when you're talking about compensation. We have different tax revenues. The jobs are different. You are saying they're not, but they are. Our county patrolmen cover a lot wider range than a city police officer, okay? Fayetteville Police Department, they have a different structure and a different step plan that they have going on, and it's based on what their revenue can afford. I would say that we should not be comparing to them.
Okay, well, how are you getting comparable prices for the Washington County Sheriff's Department?
We're looking at the global market of what a law enforcement officer is in the market in Arkansas.
So a global as in cities, a global as in rules?
Global as in regional. I'm not looking at like cities and counties. I'm looking at the region and what the market is dictating in the region for a value of a patrolman.
Well, I could see that a patrolman from Washington County deserves more pay than any local police officer like Fayetteville. Our officers is out at Bug Scuffle, which is 30 miles from here. He's by himself out there trying to make an arrest. It'll take somebody 30 to 40 minutes to get to him. Here in Fayetteville, there'll be one within 5 minutes of him. So to ask that police officer to go down there and risk his life stopping on a DWI out in these county roads is really risky. That's why a lot of them has a lot of trouble out there at night, weekends. But I think their pay needs to be a lot more than somebody local.
I don't disagree with you, but I also think that we have a staffing issue and a safety issue if we're allowing a patrolman to go and do that type of behavior. So I think there's other factors besides just pay that you have to look at whenever you're looking at that type of comparison.
Okay, then when you compare let's go to a grader operator then, from Washington County versus others. Do you value that one, when you grade that one, do you just choose the grading of Northwest Arkansas, or do you grade way down south in Dumas?
So our third-party software that does the market benchmarking is what is carrying out those grading factors. I'm not personally doing that. We have a third-party software that specializes in that, and we're feeding our data into that, and they are telling us where that position falls within the market based on the job family, which is a job classification family. So there's nobody hand-picking or hand-analyzing that. We're feeding it through a third-party software that we've purchased to help us manage this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to a degree, because I know Northwest Arkansas is one of the third richest city in the county in the state of 75, and you go down to Dumas, you go down south, they don't get paid like we get paid here.
Right. Oh, definitely. I came from southeast Arkansas, so I totally understand.
Yeah, I
You
bet.
don't get paid what we do here.
I mean, it's hard to compare our numbers just in our little corner here, rather than the whole state.
Right.
It is difficult. What I'll jump in and, we haven't had this, I think our market studies could be much more robust. I think they could be much more specified, and I think this is some of the work that we could do if we had a plan like this instead of doing all the ordinances and back pay things, this is something that we could go out and make sure that we're comparing ourselves regionally to other very comparable areas.
We need to do that.
Yep.
Across the whole state.
Absolutely.
Are they gonna be a chart somewhere in the near future to where we can look at and say, we keep talking cause I've really pushed for our lower paid employees, and I know a couple of years ago, we pushed a straight across the board raise, and there was a lot of people in the upper end didn't like it at all, and we caught hell about it. And the ones on the bottom, what I was really trying to help, we helped somewhat, but these went higher and these still didn't get much further, so. There's a lot of work to be done, but I'd like to see a chart somewhere that kind of breaks down the 600 employees, what's happening.
Like percentage-wise and who's moving where?
Yeah.
So that's what the spreadsheet is. So that's why we were saying, like, if you all would like to see the spreadsheet, you're one of the ones who didn't get to see it. So we are more than happy to bring that up, and you'll be able to see what you're asking. Yeah, we can do that, definitely.
I definitely want to see it.
Yeah. I will say that converting the sheriff's STEP program and the roads department STEP plan into the graded structure, the goal was do no harm. So we made our best concerted effort to make sure that the maximums that are dictated in the current STEP plans for roads and sheriff, that those were still in existence, and that those employees weren't being harmed and having something taken away from them by going into this program. And I do truly believe that this is the right way to move forward. I think that our employees, once they fully understand this program, they will really love it, because they will get to see, hey, if I come to work and I do my job and I show up, I'm gonna get a 5% on whatever anniversary date we use. And then annually, the Quorum Court's gonna look at COLA, and I may get a COLA every year as well on top of that. So that's a lot more than what our employees have been getting countywide than ever before. So I think that that's a really positive move.
That's a positive move, and that's good to hear, but I'm still hearing from employees, and me and the judges talked about this and argued about it. There is a right to work law in Arkansas. And us Quorum Court members is writing all this stuff, and we're putting in our blue book what we want to. I still believe that an employee needs to be wrote up 3 times before he's fired. You can fire anybody at any given moment, at any given time. And you've got a lot of people that's out there that's working for you that's scared of that. And I'm not saying take the right to work law out of the book. I'm just saying leave it in there. But in our policy say, hey, we can write you up 3 times and you're out the door.
So you're referring to a policy of progressive action, which I do not disagree with you. I think that we should be doing our due diligence to our employees and trying to do that. However, because we are an at-will state in Arkansas, you can't change that law unless you go to legislation. You know that.
I know that.
However, we don't want to tie ourselves as employers to where if there is something that in my mind is a zero tolerance situation, that employee needs to be removed right away without that progressive action approach. So I don't think that that's a bad thing to have, but I think that we need to be very careful about saying this is how you have to do it every time. Because if you have an employee that's harassing somebody or gets into a fight on work premises, they need to go,
Yep.
most likely, right? I mean,
Drugs, alcohol.
right. There
stupid
should be
stuff.
some quote-unquote zero tolerance
Yes.
policies. But in the normal, if it's just like job performance, things like that they could be coached and trained on, that corrective action process, that's how that should be viewed. It should not be, and it always gets a bad connotation, but that should be viewed as a coaching opportunity, as our way of trying to retain and groom that employee to where we want them to be. But I know it gets that bad connotation of, oh my gosh, I'm getting fired because I got written up. And so it's a mindset thing, it's a cultural thing. We can get there though. But you all are the Quorum Court, you have the power to implement those policies.
That's right.
And to make those set those policies for us. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Chief of Staff?
I got a few things I just wanted to touch on. One of them was like JP Coger touched on earlier about the eval process and them not getting the next step. It's not just the supervisor that has to sign off on that. It would go to that person's supervisor and then also the elected official as well. So there's multiple steps for security to make sure that the employees get their next step. And if they don't, it's a very good documented reason why. Yeah, I just wanted a little bit of clarification there on that. As far as the pay, and you was talking about the patrolman, I've got 13 years working at the sheriff's office, and I've been one of the deputies in Evansville and get that chill run up your spine because your closest backup is in Fayetteville or Elkins or Goshen, and I don't see much of a difference in Washington County Patrol deputies, Fayetteville, Springdale, Elkins, Lincoln, anything like that. A patrolman's a patrolman, and they deserve as much pay as they can get. And that's one thing that we've come back is that we're reevaluating and looking at from where they were last year and what was promised to come out. We're doing our best to try to get everything up there to where they're not going to be losing what they were already expecting. So I hope that answers a little bit more questions as well. They're not coming down a great amount at all from that. So any other questions on that? I've reviewed this and looked over it in great detail the last couple of weeks, and I think this is a great plan. Coming from a step plan at the sheriff's office, it's from the top to the bottom, every employee overall is going to be greatly improving on their pay. Not to mention, it's higher top outs in almost all the areas as well. So instead of like the patrol corporals, they were topping out at step 8. This has given them 2 more steps in their program to continue to get increases for a higher top out pay and 2 more years worth of pay increases. So.
Thank you, Chief. I think we've had some really robust conversation tonight. Continue to digest that and ask questions. There's a couple things I want to say. One, we all see the expense of getting on this plan, and tonight, this is a call to action to all the elected officials. Guys, we need to sharpen our pencils. We need to try to find some savings to try to get into this plan. So if you support this and you think this is good for your people, please review your budgets and do what we can to help out here and get onto this plan. I also want to mention, I was getting some texts here from my team. This is for the audience outside also. The live stream went down for a minute due to technical difficulties. It is back up. If there's, I bet everyone was screaming at their computer at that particular moment. If it should, we do also record these, and we'll load that on YouTube, so it should be in its entirety. If you missed part of this meeting, don't worry about it. It should be online. Just slimming.
You're just talking about that's down. I was trying to get on to the website to look at the new planning map, and that's down. That's not
Okay.
up. Can we get, I'd like to get a copy of the new kind of where we are.
Well, yeah, it's not a copy.
Well,
We'll have
it's
to
a
get
book.
online. But yes, we'll get with IT and make sure that that's up and try to get that rectified if that's still an issue. Sorry about that. All right, with that, are we ready to move on with the remainder of our meeting? Item number 12. An ordinance de-appropriating surplus amounts from full-time salaries for the various departments and restoring to the unappropriated reserves as required by the 2024 budget controls for the second quarter of 2024. Justice Ricker.
Make a motion to move this to the full quorum court with a due pass.
Motion to move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ricker, second by Justice Pond. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, wait a minute. Any discussion? I'm sorry, let me slow down a little bit. Okay. Any discussion by the group? Sorry about that. Any public comments on item number 12? Seeing none, have motion to pass to full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ricker, second by Justice Pond. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 12 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 13, an ordinance projecting revenue and carryover totaling $78,715.70 in the Veterans Treatment Grant and appropriating said amount to the Veterans Treatment Grant Fund for 2024. Justice Lyons?
And make a motion, we pass this on to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation.
Motion by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Ricker. Any discussion by the group? Any public comments on item number 13? Item motion passed to full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Ricker. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 13 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 14, an ordinance amending the IT budget for 2024 and for other matters pertaining thereto. This is a switch in the IT budget. They had some capital projects this year that they would like to switch those efforts to trying to, what am I trying to say here? I'm just looking on. Director Baird? I've lost my train of thought.
That's okay. Director Barrett, IT. We're going to move, we're going to purchase 5 servers for the south area, but now we're going to move that to next year, waiting for the EOC to come online, because we're going to use one of the hardened rooms in there as our secondary server location. So we're going to move the money for this year to bring our general ledger and payroll into the cloud. So we're currently on premise, and we're going to move that into the cloud, and that's going to merge with our UKG system, which is going to be primary HR. It's going to feed that cloud to cloud, make us more secure here. How much? The much for the, so we're going to go with implementation costs, it's $138,000, but we've already pre-spent or prepaid for our on-premise system, $48,000, so the delta in that will come from both this hardware purchase and another software that we're gonna push off to 2025 as well.
Questions for Director Baird? Director Baird? Motions on the subject? I'm sorry.
Within your budget, or is this,
Yes,
It's just-
IT will be covering the conversion from on-premise to cloud, and then HR will be
but this ordinance is asking for $75,000 transfer.
It's in
transfer
his
from a
budget.
level 4,000, which is capital, and I can't move that within my budget without your authorization, so it's gonna go from a 4,000 level account to a 3,000 level account.
Justice Lyons?
Now, I think I'm gonna repeat, I'm sorry, Director, sorry. I think it's the same thing, I just wanna make sure I got it, and I apologize. So really, we're going off premise, so we don't need the capital funds anymore. So you're taking that 75 grand from your capital funds budget and moving it over to your support and maintenance that you're now paying when you're in the cloud. It now becomes an operational fee versus capital.
We're going to be moving that 5 server stack purchase into 2025 when the EOC comes online. So we're not gonna purchase them this year.
Okay.
We wanna use those funds to move to the cloud version of our general ledger and payroll system.
He's redirecting funds currently in his
So
budget.
you were gonna buy servers, you're not gonna buy them now.
We're not gonna buy
So
those till
you're gonna
next
use
year.
this to get into the cloud for the other side.
And they would not be used for the GL or payroll. We're gonna be using it so we can have identical systems, both north and south, for disaster recovery.
Okay, thank you. I make a motion, we pass this on to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Dean. Any further discussion by the group? Any public comments on item number 14? Seeing none, I had a motion to pass to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Those opposed? Item number 14 will move to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation. Item number 15, an ordinance amending the Circuit Court 8 budget for 2024 and for other matters pertaining thereto. Justice Lyons?
So it says that we're needing 11,500 to modify and supplement the cubicles for the juvenile probation officers and interns.
Yeah, I believe we have some people from Circuit Court 8.
Can we just get more context?
Just a
on
little
what that
background on
means?
this would help us.
I'm Taylor Ferguson. I'm Judge Warren's trial court administrator. And yes, we did request a quote for additional cubicles, additional workstations.
Can you pull that closer? I'm sorry.
Sorry. We did get a quote for additional workstations and cubicles, just because we are running a little short on space for our current employees, and we have one vacant position that we still need to fill. And then in the last couple months, we actually lost one of our current workstations. They had to take that out to put in a new door in that area for security reasons. And the quote for the workstations, we actually already have about half of that available in our budget. So the 11.5 that we're asking for is basically the other half of what we need to complete that project by the end of this year.
Okay, so basically you're adding cubicles?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you. This is the way it was worded, sorry.
Yeah, that's all we're doing. We're adding cubicles.
So your staff really didn't have a place to sit now, we're just getting them a desk that they can sit at and work
Yeah,
at,
it's kind of
basically.
hodgepodge together.
Right, got it,
yeah.
okay.
We
Yeah, I
just
make
need
a
more
motion, we pass
workstations.
this on the full quorum court to do pass recommendation.
Motion to pass to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Dean. Any further discussion from the group? Any public comments on item number 15? Seeing none, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion to pass item number 15 to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation. It's getting late for me, guys. To the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? That will move to the full quorum court. Justice Lyons?
I make a motion that we have items 12, 13, 14, and 15 on a,
Consent agenda. I'm not the only one. I'm happy to see that.
yes, that.
Motion by Justice Lyons to add items 12, 13, 14, and 15 to the consent agenda. Do I have a second? Second by Justice Bowerman. All those in favor? Those opposed? Items number 12, 13, 14, and 15 will move to the consent agenda. Item number 16 is a public comment period. We have 12-minute public comment period with a limit of 3 minutes per individual. Public comments.
I'll hurry up and get up here so we can wrap this up. I'd like to call Sherry Main, 15451 Riches Road, Fayetteville. I'd like to comment on the proposed 2025 budget. First comment I'd like for you all to look at and consider is the Environmental Affairs Fund, 1,0702. In 2024, it was budgeted $255,835, and the budget for 2025 is zero. Did this department merge with another department, or is just a depleted department? That's first comment. IT fund, 1000115 has a budget increase of 24%, up $608,071 from 2024 to 2025, and that may be some of the structuring of moving those servers when EOM comes online. I'm not for sure what that is, but I wanted to bring that to y'all's attention. I want to thank the judge and Attorney Lester for starting the enforcement on Whittington Mine with the injunction they filed. I'm asking also to revisit the Hillside Red Dirt Pit that remains on appeal in litigation. The same agricultural exemption is allowing them to operate a commercial dirt pit without a cup. The county residents on Greenboro Road are choking on the dust caused by this dirt pit. They need dust abatement now. Trucks started hauling this morning at 6:15. There's no accountability for the Hillside owner, Bobby Morris. Thank you.
Public comments.